Welcome to the Go Beyond Disruption podcast,
brought to you by the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants.
Exclusive weekly conversations about how emerging tech is changing accounting,
business, and finance.
Now, more than ever, we all must think differently about what we do and how we do it.
Being bolder, breaking conventions, going beyond the old comfort zones.
It's Women's History Month, so all March we'll hear exclusively from female guest experts who have done just that.
Women from around the world who are impressively ahead of the curve.
Leading innovation in everything from blockchain
to robotic process automation,
artificial intelligence to human intelligence,
data analytics to cybersecurity.
Subscribe to this podcast for free.
And together
we'll go beyond disruption.
Today, you're in for a treat. In honor of International Women's Day, we hear from not one, but 4 experts on the future of the accounting and finance professions. First up, Kimberly Ellison-Taylor, CPA, CGMA, immediate past chairman of the American Institute of CPAs, and immediate past chairman of the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, speaks to Kim Drumgo, Director of Diversity and Inclusion at the AICPA. They do a quick dive into the profession's changing roles, how technology is fueling them, and exactly what skills the future of the profession will call for.
Hello, I am Kim Drumgo, and I am talking with Kimberly Ellison-Taylor today about technology in the accounting profession and how it's changing the face of accounting and how we all need to make sure that we have those skills that are appropriate and productive to the accounting profession. So, Kimberly, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'd love the opportunity to speak about my passion for the accounting profession, especially as it relates to being a woman in accounting and also in technology.
You know, Kimberly, this is an exciting time for the accounting profession and for women in the accounting profession, and technology is certainly changing accounting. So tell me what you think we need to make sure that we're doing to be prepared for the technology that's impacting accounting today.
I think when we consider what we can do, we first have to acknowledge and recognize that the role of finance professionals are really changing. When we look at the traditional role that finance leaders played, it was really around expense control, making sure that we focus on compliance, ensuring that the reports got out in a timely manner. And I can tell you that in today's environment, fueled by technology, that finance leaders are now increasingly more responsible for revenue, looking for additional opportunities to leverage, looking for competitive advantage, looking for ways to maximize the supply chain relationships, and also being, as my CEO, Safra Katz, says at Oracle, to be the co-pilot of the organization. So finance leaders are playing an increasingly critical role, and technology is only fueling, I think, the role that we play inside organizations.
And that role is certainly very, very important. So what are the skills and competencies that are needed most by financial leaders and accountants?
It's interesting that you would ask in particular about the skill sets, because technology has really changed how we would have traditionally gone about our careers. I think as I was coming along through my career, it was really important to be the smartest person in any one given area, to memorize standards, to memorize different guidances. But today, it would not be that uncommon to have a chatbot or robot or Siri, Alexa, or Google be that foundation point, so that the technical knowledge that we relied on isn't necessarily what's going to get us to the top of the organizational line. Today, I believe, and it's just as the World Economic Forum put forth when they spoke about in their report essential skill sets in the fourth industrial revolution, it's going to be around whether or not we can inspire people, how well we problem solve, what's our judgment. Do we have good people management? Do we have good critical thinking? Are we creative? And fortunately, for women in particular, Kim, I can tell you that those are skill sets that are instinctive for us, many of us at least, and that it gives us a competitive advantage, especially as the role of finance changes, and especially as it's being changed at a hugely fast pace through technology. I think we can use those skill sets to help us as we pursue seats at the executive table.
Absolutely. So, the emotional intelligence, authentic leadership, those are all becoming critical assets and skills that we all need to continue our careers in the accounting profession. So, but as a leader who works at a technology company, Oracle, what would you see are some of the opportunities for the profession?
Working at Oracle is an unbelievable opportunity for me to bring together my two loves, accounting and finance and technology. And I have the opportunity to work with people who will forget in a day more than I probably would ever know about any of those two areas. But knowing that I have resources within Oracle who are so well informed about supply chain, who are informed about enterprise performance management or human capital management, and then on the other side, understanding how autonomous database works, how our cloud solutions operate, how we put security into all of our solutions, not as an afterthought, but right as a design principle. And when we bring those two things together, we're constantly thinking about the role of the finance professional, making their roles easier, making their jobs a little less stressful because we're going to take out a lot of that complexity for them, using machine learning and artificial intelligence to help reduce complexity when they're trying to comply with regulatory guidances, both in the United States and all around the world. And watching the case studies and working with customers and the partners as they transform their environments is incredible. And so I would encourage everyone to think about emerging technologies and how they can be used in their environments to really put more emphasis on the things that we're really good at. And that's storytelling around not just what we see every day in the reports, but bringing context to what those numbers mean and bringing, I would say, recommendations that are insightful and will bring, I believe, double-digit market share to whatever company or organizations we're working for.
Speaking with you just makes me excited about the future of the accounting profession. So thank you for your time and talking about the emerging technology, especially given that it's International Women's Day.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak, especially in support of International Women's Day. I am a huge fan of having the best and the brightest talent in organizations. And you may call me biased, and I'll certainly admit to that, but women bring, I think, a different perspective and bring a different insight to organizational decision making. And I am excited to see us making progress in this area, but there is certainly more to do. And I'm also really excited about the work that the association is doing to support women and looking forward to the Global Women's Leadership Summit that will be taking place in November. So hopefully I'll see a lot of us there, and we'll have an opportunity to provide best practices and lessons learned to continue to support women in our journey and our promotion through organizational executive leadership. Thank you.
All right, you got that? To sum it up, you're going to have to tuck in some of that technical knowledge, improve your judgment and critical thinking skills, tighten up your leadership skills, and get creative. Speaking of creativity, let's move on to our next guest, shall we? Amy Radin, Association board member and author of the Changemakers Playbook, knows all about making a change. You're in for key tips on how to face disruption head-on, lead a digital transformation, and fuel growth for your organization.
So why is innovation so important in the age of disruption?
Well, first of all, we are living in an age of disruption, and disruption can have kind of a negative connotation. If you look it up in the dictionary, it means to destroy what's there. I prefer to take a glass half full approach and think about we're living in a time of reinvention where, you know, standing still is actually riskier than attempting to change. You know, we all know there's so much opportunity coming out of new technologies that are enabling things that were never possible, new ways of working together, because people are innovating workplaces and working arrangements. And those things are, those are elements that we can really take advantage of to make disruption in our businesses a positive for growth.
So you talked a little bit about this in your answer, but, why is innovation important in the accounting profession? So we know why it's important in, product development, making sure that we're meeting the needs of our customers, but the accounting profession is a little bit different. And why is innovation important for the accounting professionals out there?
Right. So I'm going to challenge a little bit what you said. I did quite a bit of research in the last couple of years when I wrote my book, The Changemaker's Playbook. And people, no matter what sector or profession people work in, they always like to think that they're really different. And clearly, the accounting profession is different in some ways, but what I saw in my research for the playbook as I spoke to people, including professional services people, across about a dozen sectors and areas of the economy, both startups and established businesses and enterprises and firms, that there's a set of common themes around innovation. And the notion that no matter what kind of business or profession you're in, we all want to and should be constantly anticipating and understanding and adapting to what our clients need and seeing how we can develop new solutions to their needs, which are going to continue to change. I also think that so that's a little bit more of I prefer to be proactive and anticipatory of where opportunities are based on client needs, because that is what can fuel growth. If you prefer to play defense, you've got to innovate. We all see how automation is forcing change in the business model for accounting. The traditional sort of bread and butter bookkeeping services are diminishing importance. The workforce of people who are choosing to join the profession, no matter the practice area, have different needs and expectations. The business model is changing. Right. And clients have whole new sets of problems. You could just look at the number of firms that are building cybersecurity practices. 10 years ago, that didn't exist. And I guess the last point I'll make is that accountants have a very unique position of trust in the minds of their clients in a way that other sectors don't. And that's a really valuable asset that gives any accounting professional incredible opportunity to broaden the conversation with their clients about the kinds of services they're providing.
Right. That's a really good point. And I think that we're beginning to see the demand of different services from clients. And that's really important that we maintain our ability to innovate. But I want to shift the conversation to women. And, it's really important that, women are also seeing themselves as change makers and being innovative. And, so how can women cultivate the skills of innovation? I think this is sometimes a rhetorical question because we're very creative instinctively. I know that I am when I have to, manage mom, work, and home. We're instinctively creative, but how does that translate into the business world? How do we cultivate those innovation skills into the business world?
I never like to generalize about the personality or leadership characteristics of any demographic group. So when I think about women in the workforce and their contribution to innovation, I like to think more in terms of there's a female leadership style and a male leadership style. And clearly the female leadership style tends to be one more exhibited by women, and vice versa for the male leadership style. The female leadership style is one that exhibits characteristics like really strong ability to collaborate, very strong empathy skills, multitasking and resourcefulness. And all of those are critical to innovation. And I think we live in a world, and I think, probably accounting professionals, really have to watch out for this. We like numbers. And somehow when things are quantified in a spreadsheet, they seem much more certain and secure. And things that are purely qualitative or emotional, not so much. But as we're meeting client needs, even in a professional or business-to-business setting, we're meeting emotional needs. If you're serving a small business client, you're not only helping them make sure that they've got, a clean bill of health on their financials, but you're helping them succeed in their, around the passions they have for their business. So empathy, strong empathy skills are very important to fueling innovation, as is collaboration. If you want, I work with many startups as well as large enterprises and firms, and the ability to bring together people with, technical, creative, communications, design, financial analysis, the ability to bring those skills together is important. And the more diverse your team is in terms of background, perspective, gender, where they grew up, all of those factors are going to feed a stronger chance of success because you're benefiting from diverse opinions and backgrounds.
Right. I, as a diversity professional, we talk about how inclusion, diversity, and innovation are linked very closely, because without that diversity, you can't really drive the innovation that you're looking for to continue to service your clients.
Yeah, I'd say for me, when I look at, I do some early stage investing, so I meet with a lot of startup companies to hear their pitches. And for me personally, the first thing I do when I start to learn about a company is I go to their about page and look at the photos of the team. Wow. And if and that's, and I think other investors have the same attitude. And when you see the team is the same of any type, right, it's just a little bit of a red flag, and it makes me want to probe a little more deeply on, is this team really taking the wide perspective? Do they really understand the market? Because I think you're right. Inclusion matters. So, the thing, back to your original question about women, I think they, as any diverse group, they need to be invited to the table, and the people around the table will be more successful if they are good listeners and welcoming of diverse views.
That's right. That's right. So having a welcoming spirit and welcoming of diverse views is absolutely important. So I'm going to ask you, some of the people who inspire you, women who innovate and inspire you, or who have impressed you. Can you talk a little bit about who they are and why they've impressed you so much in the innovation space?
Yeah, so they're not necessarily famous people. In fact, back to the playbook, when I wrote it, I deliberately wanted to talk to sort of real people who would be a lot like the readers of my book. Nice. I'd say, I live in New Jersey, and I just joined a startup women's co-working space, and it's called the Coco, and it's in Summit, New Jersey, the next town over. And the women who have started that space are so impressive. Because they really went out. First of all, they took a chance. They wanted to do something different. They really did their homework. They took the time to visit other co-working spaces and women co-working spaces, which is a whole phenomenon now around the country, to really learn from others' successes and also failures. They created an advisory board, which even if you're at an established firm, if you're trying to drive forward some new concept, having even an informal advisory board, not necessarily from a reporting chain, but having people around the firm who've got expertise who can give you objective advice and guidance and mentorship, really useful. And these women do that. And I find that having a well-formed advisory board is a great practice. They listen to the market in terms of understanding pricing and the types of flexibility people wanted. And so they followed just a lot of the good practices for what it takes to build an innovation, getting insight from the market, validating the need, building a business model, prototyping your concept, and then doing a lot of grassroots awareness building. So I just, recent example, because I just met these folks a month ago, but really impressive in how they've kind of followed the playbook.
Nice. Well, it has been a pleasure talking to you today, and we hope to hear more from you and more books coming our way from you, because it's been very, very insightful talking to you about innovation and how you've made it work and why you think it's important.
And congratulations on Beyond Disruption. I really enjoy listening to it, and I love the value that you're bringing to your colleagues around the world.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Glad to know we've made a fan out of Amy. We hope we can say the same for you too. If you're still getting there, our next guest might certainly do the trick. Clar Rosso, Executive Vice President of Engagement and Learning Innovation for the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, sits down with Jennifer Gardner to discuss this year's World Economic Forum report and the human intelligence skills that you'll need to provide value to your organization in the year 2022.
Hi, Claire. Hi, Jennifer. I'm glad you could join me today. So the World Economic Forum launched its 2018 Future of Jobs report, and I know you had a really great time reading it, and so did I. There's a lot of growth and change predicted and some shift in roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, you know what struck me was a couple of things. One is it just built on what the previous World Economic Forum report had on it. It also has a deep connection to what we've been doing with thinking about disruption of the profession. And then, of course, a piece of it I like quite a bit is it talks a lot about the importance of learning in it.
Right. We're all going to need to be lifelong learners. And there was a statistic in there that we're going to need quite a bit of learning between now and 2022.
I know. And it says we need 101 days of learning. That's a lot. But
I
don't think insurmountable, and for good reason. What were those numbers they had in there about jobs? So it wasn't just doom and gloom, like your job's going to go away, but also new jobs are coming?
Right. So I think it was around 70 some odd million jobs that could be displaced by 2022, but they were also predicting that there would be 133 million new roles and jobs that we don't have today. So if you spend the time doing the learning and developing the skills that you need, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. And one of the things I know we talk about is that learning doesn't always have to be formal.
Oh, no. I think like peer-to-peer learning, informal learning. So, for example, but learning should be active. I think that was another key. So, for example, you listen to a human intelligence podcast, you can turn that into like an active learning experience by thinking about what I'm hearing, does that apply to my job or a situation I'm in right now? You could also, kind of like the phone a friend thing, you could just listen to human intelligence with a friend. I'm not kidding. And just have a dialogue. Have we seen that happen in the workplace this week? Or how could we leverage that in the workplace? And that can really make a difference.
So really taking the time to reflect on what you've learned and apply what you've learned and doing that peer-to-peer learning.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we think about that, and I think that this goes back to the 101 days of learning, because they say it's not just kind of building your technical skills. I don't think it's just building any skill. I think you have to build and contextualize everything. So you have to understand if blockchain is the thing you need to know about. It's not just that you need to know the technical aspects of blockchain. You're going to need to know how is it going to apply to my business and what am I going to do with that information.
And then your human skills can help you figure out how to sell some of those ideas or get people on board, influence people, and help them participate in whatever project you're working on. So one of the things I also found really interesting in the report was there's some changing skills, some skills that are growing in importance, right? So we know we've talked about learning. Learning's second on the list now. There's also analytical thinking and innovation, creativity and originality. And the report went on to talk about the fact that your human skills, many of them are growing in importance.
Right. And I think that a reason for that is when you have things like robotic process automation, those high volume, repetitive kind of tasks are going to just go away. A machine is going to take care of that. Or machine learning. We've been talking about chatbots, and our editorial team has a solution that does half its copy editing. It has cut its copy editing time by 50% because of machine learning. So as a result, you're going to have to think of those things that are really value driving for your organization that are going to rely on your innovation, analytic thinking, et cetera, all those things you said, and your creativity.
So we have a new human intelligence ebook, and in that we will have a learning plan that you can fill out and just start to think about what skills you want to learn and how you want to apply your learning time. So why are learning plans important to our success as learners?
If we have 101 days of learning that we need to get done between now and 2022, we have to be really intentional.
Right.
And I think the learning plan helps you be very intentional. It helps you think about, what am I doing today that's going to help me develop as an individual and drive value for my organization. But I think it's also helping people really think about, where do I want to be and how do I get there?
So Claire, I'm just going to ask you one more question. What's on your learning plan?
I'm going to say 4 things. They're not all work related, if that's all right.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
They didn't say that they all had to be related to work.
Okay. So I am super interested in blockchain. So I want to know more about blockchain. I also reading that World Economic Forum report and just thinking about, I think, data analytics and how you take data to drive decisions within your organization. Very interested in that from a strategy perspective, not data scientists. I also need to learn how to make cannoli without burning the cannoli wrapper. And I want to improve my Italian. So
those two seem related.
They are.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this short update on the human intelligence skills you'll need for 2022.
Thanks, Jennifer.
That was Clar Rosso and Jennifer Gardner on the skills you'll need for the future of work, ending this special edition of the Go Beyond Disruption podcast. I'm Mbala Manduga. From me, from our team here in the U.S., and from all of our colleagues around the world, happy International Women's Day.
Thanks for listening to this special episode of Go Beyond Disruption, highlighting trailblazing women in the tech sphere.
This podcast is brought to you by the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants.
For more information about today's topic, search for us online using keywords Go Beyond Disruption.
Feel free to share your thoughts with us on social media using the hashtags
Human Intelligence, Go Beyond Disruption, or AICPA Women Lead.
This podcast is designed to provide illustrative information with respect to the subject matter covered and does not represent an official opinion or position of the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants or any of its subsidiaries or affiliates. It is provided with the understanding that the association, its affiliates, and subsidiaries are not engaged in rendering legal, accounting, or other professional services. If such advice or expert assistance is required, the services of a competent professional person should be sought. The association, its subsidiaries, and affiliates make no representations, warranties, or guarantees as to and assume no responsibility for the content or application of the material contained herein and expressly disclaim all liability for such damages arising out of the use of, reference to, or reliance on such material. On such material. On such material.